Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. Today's special guest is Alexandra Duparc, also known as Skandra, and she's an incredible alternative pop artist who just put out 3 songs this year. She's the owner of Treehouse LA, which is a beautiful artistic community that has pop-up concerts all around Los Angeles. Plenty of artists can go and watch for free or even play for free, and we're excited to have her on the podcast today. Alexandra, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well.
I've been on Zoom for like 3 hours.
Oh, well, thank you for hanging in there and joining me.
Oh my God, yes. I hope my voice doesn't get lost. Sorry, I'm traveling. I'm staying. Anyway, I don't have my mic. I don't have my interface. I have nothing. So I have this and in a quiet place. If the dogs bark, I'm sorry. But
That's all good. Actually, those Apple microphones are not bad.
yeah, the compressor is like pretty good.
Yeah, it sounds really nice, so I think we'll be just fine.
Good, I'm glad.
Well, I wanted to start this off by asking you about, how we met. We met at your event, Treehouse LA, and a very common theme throughout this podcast so far, talking to other guests, is about finding your community. And you went ahead and you started your own community, basically. So I wanted to ask you about what that is. What is Treehouse LA? What does it mean to you? And when did you start it?
Yeah, Treehouse is, well, okay, the name came from I lived in this guest house of my friend's property in Los Feliz, and it was called the Treehouse because it was covered in vines and surrounded by trees, and it was elevated, so it was like above the garage. So it really looked like this tree house in the middle of like a suburban area, and it was just a very small, square studio apartment, basically, and I'd been in there. I made the entire living room this creative space where there was no TV, there was no comfortable furniture, and every time I entered it, I was forced to create. I spent a lot of time in there, and I felt like I had no connection to the outside world because I got so obsessed with that. And I think that happens with a lot of artists, is you get so obsessed with what you're building that you forget the world. And so I got this text from a friend about her new album or maybe a short film or something, and it was a very blanket. She sent it to everyone, a general communication, and it bothered me that I didn't want to watch it or listen to it. Like I felt bothered by that feeling because I love art and I love supporting art. So I was like in the shower and I'm like, I need to bring people into this room. Like I need to bring people into this house and like have my friends over and have them show me what they're making. I'm going to force them to come to me and show it to me in person. It's going to be an intimate experience. We can talk about it afterwards. And so I invited like, I don't know, 3 or 4 friends to perform. And then we had like a 4-person audience and everyone loved it. And we all hung out for like 5 hours. And basically what happened was we're going to do it again. So we did it the next month, and we did it the next month. And then a few months in, there was like 150 to 200 people jammed. Like, I mean, there was probably like my living room, like, pressed against each other. People, like 80 people could fit or something. So it was like, then into my bathroom and then outside the patio, like looking through the windows. And I remember seeing people watching through the windows, like realizing there was people outside the window looking through the windows. And I was like, all right, I got to keep doing this. This is a thing now, and it's just become this monthly pop-up, and we change locations, obviously, and we change locations every month, and we get community people involved, whether it's like local businesses or local gallery owners or people who just love supporting art. And everything's free. It's free to perform, free to attend. And the entire concept is art for the sake of art and exposing underexposed artists to crowds who come not knowing what to expect. We don't really usually promote the artists unless they want us to. So it's kind of like, hey, show up and experience things you've never experienced every single month. And so that's been going on for 5 years. We threw a festival in 2016 with 25 bands, 25 films. It ended solvent, which was a miracle because festivals are supposed to make you like $100,000 in debt, which it didn't happen because we had community support. And anyway, so we've had a lot of successes, and we've just been going ever, and it happens every month, and we always have a good time, and it's always a different experience and different artist. And obviously the pandemic has put that on hold for now, but it will continue.
It's amazing that you've been doing it for over 5 years. I mean, that's got to take a lot of dedication, preparedness. And I was lucky enough to attend one at the very end, right before Corona happened. And it was such a positive experience. Everybody who was there wanted to be there for the sake of listening to music and meeting cool people. And I was very happy to attend, and also disappointed that right when I found this community, all of this happened, and we can't get everybody together right now. But I wanted to ask you, with all of that, and I'm sure that takes so much coordination, what are some unseen challenges, or what is something you would warn somebody about if they wanted to create something like this? Like, oh, you better watch out for this, or you better be aware that this might happen.
You just have to keep it really simple. I think that's been like the key thing, because one thing I like, for example, I remember, I think it was Treehouse number 9 or something. We had 850 people, and it was like line at the door waiting to get in because it was at max capacity, and it was like this crazy event. And I remember getting advice like after that event from people like, man, you should be like running a venue, or you should be starting a label, or you should, I got like, we should make a TV show out of this. Like, I got so many different pieces of suggestions and advice. And I just went, okay, but the second I do that, I present myself 1,800 problems that I would never have if I just keep popping up for free and exposing artists, because that's the whole point of this. And if you want to document it, fine. If you want to create a label, fine, like you do that. But that's not what this is about. This isn't about like climbing some ladder. This is literally like, we're gonna make grassroots exist and continue to exist, because grassroots is always the best. It's always the best way to discover art, is from your friend or from a local, community, or whatever, so it's like, I think that keeping it simple, because the second you go, we even introduced sponsors. Like, we had Airbnb sponsor one event, and it was a nightmare to me. It was a nightmare because we had to sell tickets or something, because it was through Airbnb. Anyway, anytime I veered from just the initial cause, it became complicated. So if your goal is to create community and be selfless and expose artists and really create community, you have to just keep it like base level, simple. Everything else is just flair. And unless you're looking to start a label, there's no point in complicating it. You know what I mean? So anyway, that would be my general blanket advice on it.
That's so interesting that once you started getting sponsors and started getting money to put on these events, suddenly it's more complicated. Because I think most people, including myself, think about, even this podcast. If somebody was to sponsor it, suddenly there's an extra element to it that you have to put brain power towards, and you have to start thinking about this kind of stuff that otherwise could be used, maybe focusing on what the whole point of this really is.
Exactly. And I think it's sticking to the point, like what you said, because if your point is to be a multi-billion-dollar business, fine. Yes, take sponsors, take money, do that. But it really just goes down to what is the basic like purpose of that organization or drive or podcast, or, and I think with podcasts, it's great to have sponsors, but then it's like, which sponsors?
So I also want to talk about your newly released music. You've put out 3 songs this year: Rivers, Tangerines, and Ashes. And as I was looking at your Spotify, the description said something like, written on a small synth in a Los Feliz guest house. And I thought that was really cool because the production is kind of big. It almost reminds me of like LCD Sound System. It just has this kind of big dance vibe to it. But it was cool to see that the seed of this was from just one girl, small synth in her room, creating this. And I just want to ask about what that process was, getting it from the beginning stages to its final stages.
Yeah. Well, it was in that Treehouse guest house. That's where it was. All these songs were written. I wrote like, I think 158 songs that year, like something crazy. Like I was a machine. I was very depressed, but I was very happy to emote it through music. I had a microcorg, which when I was like 15, I wrote a song on a microcorg. Like I had a, microcorgs. Like
Hmm.
okay. Um, there's like these funny drum beats that you can get, and you can slow down the tempo, but you can't actually see what the tempo is because it's all these like analog looking things, and you have to guess and whatever. And so I slowed down a beat, and I wrote a song over it, and I fell in love with that song, and I still love the song. I'll record it one day. But then like years later, I was like, what instrument do I love? I love piano, I love guitar, I love these, but I'm like, I'm like, oh, the microcorg. So I whipped it out, and I was like, all right, all I get is a microcorg, a microphone, and my computer. That's all I get, and I have to write music like I did then because so much came out of me when I limited myself. And then I wrote so many songs. So it came from there. They all started off as, I call them like sad, slow poem journal entries, almost like no real attention to structure or anything. And I just wrote songs on the synth and made demos. And then I worked on them over years and years. And last year I decided, because my husband was like, you need to record an album. This is ridiculous. Like, and since we've been together, he's never seen me play a show or record an album. And I've been doing that for a very long time before.
Wow.
And so I was like, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. And he's like, well, we have these savings and we're not buying a house yet and we're not doing anything. Let's just go. Like, do you want this? I'm like, of course I want it. I've wanted this since I was 12. So I went in with my friend Travis Warner, who has played Treehouse quite a few times. And he and I like worked on, I'd already done some production with some other friends, and we just took those things and we made them better. We recorded parts, and then one of our good friends is Mike Chupan, who is a mixer, so then he mixed it, and it just everything just kind of like worked itself out, and we really learned each other in the process. Like Travis and I and Mike have become this like trifecta, and we're a team now. And I think this EP was just a learning process of how we work. And I didn't expect anything like what's happened in the last few days to ever happen with this. I thought, oh, this is like a nice step in the right direction, because I finally am making music that means a lot to me. All these songs actually mean something to me. I could talk to you about an hour about each song and where it came from and what the story is and what I felt and whatever. But then on top of that, it sounds really good. It's really well produced, and it has all the Casio tone beats. It has all the microcorg sounds. All of those things. Like in Ashes, I don't know if you know the line where I yell.
Hmm.
That line where I yell was recorded in my guest house, and we kept it because I was standing across the room by myself in the middle of the day, and I just screamed the line as loud as I could, and I couldn't replicate it. I tried for like an hour with Travis. I was like trying all these different positions, screaming the line, and I'm like, no, we're keeping it. So it's all the old elements, all the new elements put together, and yeah. So now we have this little EP. I have 3 more songs from it to release, but we're going back into the studio Monday to do like 5 or 6 songs. So
Wow. So will this all be an album that you're going to release?
I don't know. I don't know
Like,
anything
we'll
yet.
see.
Yeah.
Well, the 3 songs you already have out are awesome. I think it's great that you put limitations on yourself, because that really seems to get the creative juices flowing. Like, you don't have all this stuff, so you just have to make it as good as you can with as little as you have.
I agree. Yeah.
And especially Ashes. That's probably my favorite song. I love the end when the dance beat comes in.
Yeah.
That really seems to be the most in line with your poetry. I know you're a poet, and to me, that, I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but the first half really seems like you were talking about, like a journal entry, and it just seems to fit a story that you have that first half, and then you scream that line. Which, by the way, what do you say? Something about the ashes.
Well, the lines before, it's like, I'm a girl with all these dreams. If you give me a match, you should expect a flame. So here's the fire that ends us again. And I hope the whole world becomes covered in the ashes.
Wow. And then the rest of the song, like it's like you lit that flame, that music starts.
Exactly.
It's very, very well written.
Thank you.
So you've been writing poetry for a long time, right? Is it when you were 12 or even before?
I think I remember in sixth grade, I had this English teacher named Mrs. Carver, and she she asked me to write a short story based on a book we wrote. I mean, a book we read in class, and she was like, "Write a short story like this," and that was an assignment, and I did, and everyone had to read their short story in the class in front of everyone, and we took 2 days to do this because there were so many kids in the class, and I went up and read mine. I was the shyest kid on earth. I was so introverted and not okay with public speaking at all. So shaking, but I read the story and the entire class started clapping at the end and like going, oh, 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 and howling. And she was like, "You're a writer. You have to write for the rest of your life." Like she gave me orders. I have this book where she made me write in a journal every night and bring it to her the next day, and she would make notes about like, this is good, keep doing this, like this needs to, you need to open up this door a bit more. And she would give me, I'm like a sixth grader, and she was like analyzing my mind. And I really thank her for writing, because it became my favorite thing to do, is writing words. So that's where it started, and I've been writing since.
Shout out to Mrs. Carver.
Yeah.
That's so cool when a teacher or when anybody notices something in you that you didn't even know was there.
Absolutely. I think that's what teachers should do, right?
Yeah, and they nurture it and show you like, hey, this is the way.
Yeah.
And you won the Poetry Nation International contest at 14. What was that like?
It was like, it was such a funny thing because I had this poem. I don't remember what the poem is. I have to dig out. They send you a book and your poem is in the book, right? I don't know where that is. I'll find it. But it was like poetry.com or some website like that. And I submitted, and then I don't know, 2 months later, I got told I won. And it was, that's it. That's the story. It was
That's
that
it. Whoa.
simple. But it was like, and like my parents, I'm on the internet when I'm a teenager. Of course, my parents don't know what I'm doing. And so I'm like submitting my poems to all these contests and doing all these things. And then one day we get the poetry book in the mail. My dad's like, "What is this?" And he's like thinking I'm going to throw it away or something. And I'm like, "Oh no, my poem's in there." And he's like, "That's a big deal. You don't realize it's a big."
That's so funny. It was so simple like that. I would have thought it would be some like, like spelling bee type contest where you read it in front of everyone. That's funny. You just submitted it and there you go.
Yeah, that was it.
So you seem to be a jack of all trades. You've got so much that you've done. Like with everything we've talked about, you've also scored over 30 films. That's a lot of films.
I know.
How did you manage your time with doing all those? How did you like reset your mind between each film? Because I'm sure each thing has their own vibe that they want.
It was interesting because I didn't want to score films. And then I'd been told, "Oh, you should be a composer," because for some reason I have this knack of orchestrating strings. I don't know where it comes from. I think it comes from piano theory, because I understand the different uh way, like, anyway, whatever. It's theory, right? And so to me, orchestration, I'm stuttering so much, or I've been talking for days. Orchestrating quartets and stuff, I really just is piano to me. And so then um what happened was I teamed up with a friend. We made this demo CD of all these instrumental tracks that we had, because I had some, he had some, we collaborated on some. And I gave it to my mom and to listen to in the car. And then she met up with her high school best friend, and that her son, that best friend's son, worked at some film company. And then anyway, it got into the hands of a music supervisor, who then called me and was like, "What the hell? I thought you were like a 30-year-old man. You're a 19-year-old girl. Like, I need to meet you." And then he mentored me. And then I basically started, I mean, mind you, not 30 feature films. So it's about 20 short films and 10 features and
Still, that's pretty crazy.
commercials and all this shit. Yeah. I really rarely overlap projects. That was one thing. And then I only chose projects I was certain I could do. So like if someone was like, hey, I need samba, I'm like, no, I'm not, that's not happening. There was this Western film and I just had such a hard time with it. And then mid the film, I was like, I'm telling you right now, I am not the right person for this project. I love certain bluegrass and certain, you know, I can pull from that, but I'm never going to deliver what you need from me. So yeah, it was really just a matter of like picking projects that were easy for me to write on. That was really it. And that just kept me sane because it was like writing my own song without lyrics, you know, which is a lot easier than the whole shebang.
Yeah, I was talking with another guest earlier about doing scores because he started getting into it, and he was saying that working on a score can be really freeing compared to writing your own music because you don't have to adhere to the same rules almost of, you know, song structure, verse, chorus, or whatever. You can watch the film and just kind of play to your heart's content, whatever comes to mind. And you can even make sounds that aren't actual, you know, it's not just a guitar, like it's some weird screeching sound or whatever. And it seems to be a lot more of a creative space to play in.
Absolutely. It's definitely freeing and it's a faceless, you know, it's almost like a faceless creation, which is always more freeing.
Yeah, you can kind of hide behind some anonymity, you know?
Exactly.
So that's going to take us to the last five. I'm just going to ask you five quick questions you can answer to your heart's content, and then we'll be out of here.
Okay.
All right. So the first one, and I think this is going to be interesting for you because I've asked this for multiple people, but you're a poet. So which comes first, lyrics or the beat when you're writing a song?
Lyrics.
See, there you go. That's what I thought. How does that work? Because for me, I can't write a song unless I have the beat in front of me and I know like where we're gonna go. But the lyrics to me are like the lyrics follow because it follows the emotion of the song. But you clearly have your lyrics first.
Yeah, I think lyrics are the easiest way for me to say something I want to say. So also too, like I look at lyrics and like I look at poetry and lyrics as this puzzle. So it's almost funny because there is a syncopation aspect to it. You pick the syncopation and you fill the syncopation, and then you have to fill it just right that every sentence makes sense with every other sentence. So it's almost like you put the syncopation, the beat there, and then you fill the beat with words. So I guess it's almost like we could say we start the same in different ways, you know?
Yeah, that's a fair point. All right. The second question is who's your favorite poet and why?
I'm going to cheat on this one. It's my dad.
Okay.
And because every poem I've ever seen him write has made me cry. And I don't think I could say that about any other poet on earth.
Wow. What's it like having that extra level of relationship with somebody who you admire with their work?
It's funny because my dad's not a professional poet. He's definitely a professional writer. Um, I think the thing about poetry is that like he's a man of many words. My dad, like he will talk to you about something he loves forever, and it's great. But to watch him take all of that and succinctly portray those emotions or that concept is like, I don't know. There's just something about it that I think is just so cool.
That's beautiful. Who's the most underrated artist to you?
Underrated the most. See, these the most are killing me. The most underrated artist.
You can name a few if you want.
I'm gonna stick to Treehouse artists because there's so many artists in the world that I think are underrated. But I'll stick to Treehouse. I'll keep close to home. Is that like I think Lauren Ruth Ward should be one of the most famous artists in the world. I really do. She's consistently, effervescently, like just insouciantly everything about Lauren is I think completely underrated. And I thought it 30 seconds into ever seeing her play for the first time at Treehouse, actually. And she has resilience and persistence, and she's just an incredible artist. I think that my friends Dead Sarah, kind of in the same genre actually, which is all these are very different from the genre of music I make, but I just respect the people so much. Like, I think Dead Sarah should be one of the top bands in the world, and they're some of my best friends, and I love them. I think my husband's underrated, but he's getting there.
He's getting there.
Like, I mean, his music is just, my producer, his music blows my mind. He's so intricately genius. Oh man, I could go on and on. You're asking the person who runs Treehouse, who the most, this is like, that's a whole podcast.
I'm really putting you on the spot here. Yeah. Well, I appreciate
My best friend is an amazing actress, and she should be, oh man, all right.
Well, to sum it up, all Treehouse LA artists
100%.
are underrated. Great. Well, in the studio or playing live?
Playing live in the right place.
What's the right place?
Where you don't feel like you're a fish in a fishbowl.
Yeah. Like people are just staring at you?
Like you're a spectacle. I don't like being a spectacle. I like being like connected. It has to, you gotta have that. And there's some venues like that, but it's just gotta have that.
Treehouse definitely has that vibe. Everybody's there to just soak it in.
Exactly.
All right, this is the last one, and then I'll send you on your way. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh my God. This is the funniest question. It's Dance with Somebody. But the problem is every time I request it, I get up there and I forget the verses. Like, I'll catch maybe every fifth word of the verse, and I realize that I only really know the chorus, like really well. Verses, I've gotten better over the years, but
don't they have the lyrics on the screen for you?
Yeah, you know me. I'm like, I mean, you don't know me, but I'm doing this.
You're into it, yeah. And then you're like, wait a second, maybe I do.
And I'm trying to catch up with the words. And anyway, so
that's a show in itself.
Yeah. I also do love Say My Name by Destiny's Child.
Say My Name will always be a classic.
100% know every word of that song.
Well, there you go. Say My Name. Awesome. Alexandra Duparc, Skandra, thank you again for coming on, and everybody needs to check you out. Everybody needs to check out Treehouse LA. I appreciate you coming in, even though you've been doing Zoom after Zoom interview all day, and I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much. You're awesome.